Hey there, this is Mike with the One Stop Co-op Shop with a solo playthrough of Dune Imperium, which is a 1 to 4 player game set in, of course, the Dune universe, where you're trying to seize control of Arrakis, the desert planet, the spice, and gain power for your house. This one has a mix of mechanics. It's part deck builder, part worker placement. I'm going to go through an overview of the basic rules and the action spaces available, but if you want to skip straight to the play, just use the timestamps in the video. And if you like what we do here on the One Stop Co-op Shop, lots of ways to support us. Just look at the video info for a few. You can support us on Patreon, join our Discord, listen to our podcast, watch our stream on Twitch. Tons of stuff going on, and we appreciate anything you want to get involved in. So in the solo mode, you need to pick which house you're going to control. I went for House Atreides because, of course, and specifically Duke Leto Atreides because I want to reverse the course of history and not have him go out killing Wormtongue with a dental homicide. That's for all those David Lynch Dune fans out there. I have a starting deck of 10 cards, and that's the only player deck I need to worry about because the AI uses their own different type of card, and I've drawn a 5-card hand. I've got these little cubes. Those are the troops I'll be putting on the planet of Dune to try to gain control in places. And I've got these 2 agents. Those are my workers because this is a worker placement game. It's going to take 10 rounds to go through the entire thing. And for most of those rounds, I'll be placing 2 workers around. I have the chance to get a 3rd agent later on. And these flags might come into play. They show that I have control over one of the major cities of Dune. Now I also need some opposition. I've got House Thorvald here, and this is the first player token. It's going to go on the player to my left, so basically I'll be the first player in the next round. And then for that good Dune flavor, I had to throw in one of the Harkonnens for my other opponent. So we have Raban the Beast as the red player here. And each of us is just starting with 1 water of resource. And I'm playing on Sardaukar difficulty, which is kind of like the middle one, the veteran difficulty. So they each start with a intrigue card as well. Now the AI will never play these. They also won't ever use their resources. Instead, if they accumulate enough of a given resource, they'll trade it in for a victory point. And speaking of victory points, here are the victory point tracks. And this is a low victory point game. If you can get 10, you'll trigger the end of the game in that round, and you'll see who has the most victory points. We've also got the combat area here. Each of us has a circle, which is our garrison. So these troops are kind of hanging out, ready to go into battle. And then if they actually go on this crossed sword here, that's when they'll be fighting over these conflict cards, which are both the round timer for the game. We're going to flip 1 each round, but they'll also be worth fighting over for victory points and other rewards. Now, kind of working our way around the board, we've got these action spaces. You've got these blue circle spaces on the planet of Dune. Those are kind of like the civilized inhabited places. They'll usually get you troops. And then down here, you've got spice harvesting spaces with these orange triangles. And those icons go with one of the key mechanics of the game. When you play out one of your agents, basically place one of your 2 workers for the round, you have to play a card from your hand with it. And the worker can only go to a space that corresponds to the icons on the card you played. So for example, playing this Dune the Desert Planet card would only allow my agent to go harvest some spice for me. Up at the top of the board, you've got the Landsrad spaces. These generally let you spend basically your galactic credits to get troops or other powers, including your 3rd agent. Very important to get at some point in the game. You need to spend 8 Solari to get him. And you can also work with the Chome Company. Uses the same icon as the spice harvesting to basically sell your spice for a ton of credits. And then finally going down the left side of the board, you have these 4 factions you can work with. You can only see 2 of them at the moment, the Emperor and the Spacing Guild. And they each have 2 action spaces, but these icons are much more rare on cards. However, whenever you play a card here, you also move your faction's counter up this space, and these can get you more victory points and other rewards, and also make some cards combo better. And just to show you the other 2, we've got the Bene Gesserit Sisterhood and the Fremen. If you know Dune, these might all sound familiar, but even if you're not familiar with the source material, I don't think it stops the game from being enjoyable. Like I said, by the way, the conflict deck is 10 cards deep. That measures the rounds in the game. And based on your difficulty setting for veteran, it's 4 down. I've placed the 3rd agent for both of the AI factions here. So they get it automatically, in this case at the start of the 4th round, so that kind of gives me my timer for how quickly I might want to try to get my own. And finally, like I said, there's some deck building in this game. We've got an offer or a market of 5 cards. This is the cost in the upper right-hand corner. And these 3 cards are always available. This one only comes from one of the Spacing Guild spaces, why it doesn't have a normal cost. This one is stupidly expensive, but immediately gets you a victory point. And this is kind of like the generic get you a 2 money card that you might just buy if you have nothing else to do. Now, to go through the steps of a round, it's pretty straightforward and flows really smoothly for solo. First, you have the round start, where you're going to flip the top conflict card. We can go ahead and do that. And in a solo game, you're only really paying attention to the first and second place rewards. The person with the most strength, mainly from putting troops in that little combat space, will get a victory point in this case, one of the 10 you need to end the game and potentially win, and the other player will get a single water. There is a tiebreaker case where you could get the third reward, but that's not going to happen very often. So you just flip that up to show what the current conflict is about. And then you start taking player turns. And on an AI turn, it's really simple. You draw the top card for each of the AI when their turn comes up for this House Hagal deck. And it'll tell the exact space they go to. Now, Harvest Spice is a special one. They won't go there unless extra spice tokens have accumulated on one of the spaces, so here they wouldn't actually use it. Also, if the space is already taken, because like most worker placement games, you can only have one agent on a given space. If it's already filled, then they'll just draw another card. So like here they would say, never mind, we're going to fold space. And you ignore this bottom part when they take an action. That's only used in the combat phase at the end of the round. But this is the action space they'll go to, and this is the reward they get. You don't look at the actual rewards for the space. You don't pay attention to any of this stuff. Instead, they just get this, which in this case means they move their faction token for allying with the spacing guilds up one space. And that's literally it for each AI turn. But let's look at our turns and how they're a bit more complicated. So as I already mentioned, you're going to play a card from your hand to go along with an agent, and the icon or icons will determine what kind of space you can go to. So if I played Diplomacy, one of the best cards in my starting deck, I can go to any of those faction spaces if I have the proper resources to pay for it, increasing my reputation and kind of alliance with them. And the action spaces all have kind of the same DNA. They've got these little icons we already talked about. If there's a cost to go there that you have to pay, it'll be right here. So it'll go to the research station. We need 2 water. 1 water to go to Haga Basin. 6 spice. We need to give the Spacing Guild to go to their Highliner space. And then the reward you will get is on the right side. Cubes are troops that'll either go in your garrison or straight to combat. We'll get to that in a second. You can get water. Solari, the money, and then again you can get some spice, mainly from these places on Arrakis. You've also got this little green symbol, that means to draw a card. The X means to trash a card from your discard pile or your hand or your in-play area. And there's some other effects we'll see as we go through the game. Now, a very important thing about your cards and your turn, once you want to stop using agents, usually that'll be when you don't have any left, but you could do it early if you wanted. Let's say I had played, these 2 cards. Then you're going to look at the bottom effects of the cards. These are their reveal effects. This is why the cards have the white box, which often won't have anything in the starting cards, but later on will give you bonuses. And then the dark blue box is the thing if you don't use it for agents, if you just reveal at the end of the turn. And this is generally where you'll get your resources to buy cards. So I would have 3 points to pay for cards here. And sometimes you'll get red swords. Those will boost your combat strength, which we'll get to in a second. So your combat strength for a given round, trying to win the current conflict card, is 2 points for every troop you have in the actual center, and then 1 for every red sword icon, like you just saw on that dagger card. Now, how do you get troops in the combat space? You'll see that every single action space on Arrakis, plus a few other action spaces like the Highliner, have the little cross sword symbol, and that means anytime you place an agent there, you can additionally place any troops you gain from the action or from the card you played into the combat area, and also up to 2 troops from your garrison. So if, for example, I went to Haga Basin just to mine some spice, I could also move 2 troops to the center to gain 4 combat strength for this combat phase near the end of the turn. And by the way, red swords don't mean anything if you don't have at least 1 troop in the combat space, so you can't fight with nobody. And also, you're going to flip a random card from the top of the House Hagal deck for each AI that has troops there. And it'll give them a random bonus. A few cards have 5 or 6, but the average is 0 to 4, kind of trending toward 2 in the middle. And again, highest total gets the first prize, second total gets the second prize. That's it in solo. And in the case of a tie, you both get the next lower down. So if 2 of us tied for first, we would each get 1 water. If 2 of us tied for second, we would each get the third prize. That's the only time it comes in. Then you have the Makers phase, where Shai Halud, the sandworms, help to create more spice. How it works is you look at each of the 3 spice production spaces, and if they don't have an agent on them, you're going to put an extra token here. And these can accumulate turn to turn, and you get all the spice there when you finally take the action. And finally, you get the recall phase, where all your agents come back, and you do it all over again. And the game's going to go until you go through all the conflict cards, and you just compare victory points, or until somebody reaches 10 victory points, and then you see who gets the highest, which will usually be that person, although there are some hidden victory point cards you can get from this Intrigue deck that could help you jump ahead of them. I'll explain other details as we go along, but for now, let's jump into the game. So House Torvald starts with the first player token, and you don't pay attention to the left powers for any of the AI factions, but sometimes their little signet ring special power will come into play. For them, they have a spice horde and they get 1 spice, which again doesn't do anything for them, but if they get 7 spice, they get a victory point, so they kind of accumulate stuff. But all we really care about is where they're setting their first agent. And it's to the Fold space, action space. They're going to gain 1 reputation with the Spacing Guild. So I put their agent there, I move their token up. Once you reach the 2nd space, that's worth a victory point. And if you get up to the 4th space here, you get an immediate bonus, in this case 3 Solari, 3 money. And then you also get this little alliance token that is also worth a victory point. Although someone else can steal it from you by passing you, not equaling your space, but passing where you are. Sort of a Settlers of Catan longest road sort of mechanic. Alright, and now it's my turn. I've got the Diplomacy card, which I almost certainly want to play whenever I get it, because these are such good sources of victory points. And then I can either do a green icon, a yellow icon, or a blue. But let's first look at what I want to buy. And the 2 main ones I'm looking for, because I love these little alliance tokens, are either the Guild Bankers or the Bene Gesserit Sister. She can get me to Bene Gesserit spaces, they can get me to Emperor and Spacing Guild spaces. But she's got some nice flexibility. If I don't play her card, I can get 2 money or 2 combat, but I'll usually play it. They let me buy these Spice Must Flow cards for 3 less, so I could go for like a big kind of money strategy and try to get a bunch of those, although then they'll clog up your deck. I don't know. The game's pretty short. I haven't found like deck building focused strategies to work too well, so I'll probably still go for them, but mainly for their icons. And to buy them, I'll need to keep 3 points, but since I'm not going to play Convincing Argument, it doesn't even have any icons to play, that'll give me 2, so as long as I keep one of these 2, I'm fine. But let's do Diplomacy first and figure out who I want to ally with. And it's worth looking at my powers for Duke Leto. His Landsrad popularity means that on green spaces I pay 1 Solari less, minor benefit. But the big thing is if I have a spice when my Signet Ring is played, which is coming up in my next cards, I can gain an influence, that's the little alliance track, with a faction where somebody else has more than me, which is great because they tend to move up pretty quickly, so I can really get those extra victory points. But for now, I think I'm going to go with the Fremen. They're the main source of water. And they also open up another action space, Siege Tabar, if I have at least 2 influence with them, which lets me get more water and troops. So I'm going to go to the Still Suit space, increase my influence by 1, and get a 2nd water, which will give me a lot of flexibility to get some spice from the nice center spaces. And why do I want to do that? Spice can be sold for Solari, and Solari can buy me my 3rd agent. I would love to get that as soon as possible so I can get a jump on the AI. Now we come around to Raban and his first agent. And he's going to cozy up with the Bene Gesserit with the Selective Breeding space, just getting 1 influence with them. And Selective Breeding is kind of the main culling space in the game. You can cull 1 card, and then you get to draw 2 more. But it costs 2 spice, and again, I find the game goes too fast to really make deck building a fully viable strategy, so I don't usually go there too much. Now, as for House Torvald, they're going to the Rally Troop space, which gets them 4 troops, but note that it does not have a cross sword, so the AI has to abide by that rule. They can't place them on Arrakis. They're just going to hang out in their reserve, their garrison for later. And speaking of, I might want to throw a troop or 2 in here for my 2nd action, because only the Harkonnens still have to go, and if they don't put any troops in, I'll win it with even a single guy and get a victory point. So to that end, I'll play Dune, the Desert Planet. I'm going to go to Haga Basin, kind of the in-between one, to get 2 spice for 1 water. And that is a cross sword space, so even though I didn't actually gain any troops here, I can still move up to 2 from my garrison. But you know what, I'm only going to move 1, because if the Harkonnens go to a combat space with their final action, they'll move 2 automatically, and maybe even get more, and there's a very high chance that their bonus from the card deck will exceed me anyway, and all the troops in the combat space go away. I didn't say that. So there's not really much reason for me to overcommit at this point. And interestingly enough, we're actually skipping the next 3 cards. Rally Troops is already occupied, Selective Breeding is already occupied, and Harvest Spice, remember, they only go to if there's a bonus spice token from a previous turn. So let's see what their actual action is. Oh, here we go. It's right to be cautious. They're doing Hardy Warriors. They're going to get a Fremen influence and 2 troops, and then because of the cross sword symbol, they're going to move even 2 more troops. So they'll have 4 overall. So yeah, it would have been a big waste to move that extra troop in there. So here they go, moving up. And yes, it's in some ways unfair that the AI got such a great card, but this is the 2nd highest combat card in the game, so at least I know the +5 bonus is out of play for a little while. Now, all of our workers, our agents, are spent, but I still get to do my reveal and spend my 3 money. I do have +1 combat. And like I planned, I'm going to get the Guild Bankers again, mainly for their ability to get me more influence with some of the factions. Bought cards go to your discard and are immediately replaced. There's a Gunthopter. And my combat is 3 with the bonus. The Harkonnens are 8. Thorvald isn't even involved. But I still draw a card for red, and they get just +1. But still no way I could have beaten them in this first round. So they gain 1 out of 10 victory points, and I get 1 water. Now it's the Maker's phase. We've got 4 spice there and 2 there. I do have the water to go there. I might consider it. And then all of our agents come back. And I forgot to remove all of the warriors. So House Torvald has a huge garrison waiting. I'm a little bit bigger than Harkonnen because they use too many troops there. Alright, start of round 2. We're going to reveal our next conflict card. And here the first place person will get an intrigue card. These can give you like combat bonuses, give you alternate ways to get victory points, and 3 spice. Second place is 2 spice. Third place is 1 spice. I don't care too much if the AI gets that, although 3 intrigue cards are worth 1 victory point for them, so it is pretty good. And 7 spice, so that's almost like a victory point by itself. But yeah, I probably won't commit there unless they're kind of ignoring it. And I'm the first player this round. I'm going to get my remaining 5 cards. I've got my Signet Ring, which remember if I spend some spice will give me an influence, so excellent, definitely want to play that. Then I've got Seek Allies, which is a one-time kind of extra diplomat, but then it trashes itself. And I've got the potential to spend 3 money again, so I could get that Bene Gesserit card from last time. Probably what I'll go for. Yes, I'm probably going to do Signet Ring and Seek Allies unless something odd happens. And let's jump right in. I want the spice, so I'm going to use my Signet Ring card to go to the Great Flat. That'll use up both my water, but I'll gain 4 spice. Then I'm going to spend 1 of them for Duke Leto's ability. The only place where somebody has more influence than me is on the Bene Gesserit. So now I'm halfway to getting a victory point. Meanwhile, the Harkonnens are still looking for some combat. They're going to AWAKEN. They're going to gain a troop plus Raban's Signet ability, which is 1 troop or 2 if they've got an alliance. They've reached that high 4 space on one of the tracks. So in this case, it's going to be 2 troops, and they will pull in up to 2 more if they can. So they're already dominating this one. I kind of hope blue will go in a bunch too, and they can fight over this stuff. But no, blue's doing probably the worst action for the AI in the game. They're getting a single cube that does not go on Arrakis, just goes to their garrison, so it's even bigger. You know what, I was going to do Seek Allies, but now I'm kind of thinking I should sell my spice, and that'll get me enough Solari that I can buy my 3rd action piece next turn. Yeah, that seems like the right play. So let's do Dune Desert. Oh wait, that would take away, I only have 2 left to buy stuff, darn it. Yes, you know, I will do Seek Allies. It'll trash itself from my deck. And then what I can do is next turn, I can do a 1-2 punch of getting the money and then hiring the Swordmaster. And again, I like getting to that 2 influence spot for the Fremen, because then I get access to this other action place. So that'll give me my first victory point and also a water. There we go, and you know what? I guess I'll throw 1 troop in there again. Maybe blue will not commit again, and I'll get lucky and just get some free spice. And the Harkonnens, once again, are bouncing through multiple places, but they are going to harvest spice this time. And they do get the actual amount indicated, which in this case is 2, because they can convert 7 to a victory point. But they have no troops in their garrison to add, so they're done. And then blue wanted to harvest spice. They couldn't. Araken's already taken, so they're doing the best action space in the game for the AI, but it also takes out their best combat card, the Highliner, so I'm definitely not getting second place this time. They're going to get a Spacing Guild influence, put down 3 cubes, and then also get 2 from their garrison. So here they go, first on the board with them. And then they outnumber the Harkonnen, and yeah, I'm just lagging behind. Alright, for my reveal turn, I'm going to get +1 combat. That won't matter, but again, I have 3. So I can either go for Shifting Allegiances. This means I would decrease my influence with 1 faction to gain 2 influence with another, but I have to spend 2 spice. I think I'm going to go with the Bene Gesserit instead, and again, keep on having ways to gain my influence up. And ooh, fun, the Worm Riders card came out. Not that I'll ever be able to afford it, but... Oh, and look at this. I would have 4 attack bonus if I had 2 influence with the Fremen, and 6 if I had an alliance with them. That's pretty good. In combat, I've got 3 strength again with my bonus from my knife. The Harkonnens get +2, so they're at 8. And as Torvald gets +3, so they're at, what, 13? Wow. So Torvald gets 3 spice and an intrigue card, they're second. And the Harkonnens just get 2 spice. And then all these troops come away, but blue is still looking pretty great with their garrison. Alright, only Haga Basin gains a Maker token, and then we bring all our agents back. Let's see our round 3 conflict. We're only 1 round away from all of their agents coming out. In this case, their winner will get the Mentat for the next turn, which is basically an extra agent and an intrigue and 2 Solari. That would be a pretty nice one to win. Although if I also got my Swordmaster, I'd have to use 4 of the 5 cards from my hand to play all that stuff, which might not be worth it. And the Harkonnens will be first this round. You'll see they're pretty close to getting the 7 spice they need to get a victory point. And House Torvald will get a victory point if they get 1 more intrigue card, which will be their first so far. And let's see who I got. Ooh, 2 ways to get influence. And then I can also gather some spice. Alright, we'll see how things go. But first, the Harkonnens are going to Carthag, just getting a single troop. And they have no reserve to pull from. House Torvald is going to Conspire, another one of the best actions in the game. They're going to get an Emperor influence and 2 troops, but there is no cross-sword icon, so they won't be able to actually put anybody in the combat space. And it's worth noting that with that card out, the AI deck is definitely a little bit low on combat bonuses, so this might be a good turn for me to try to jump in and grab something. But first, let's not forget, I wanted to get my agent, so I'm going to use Dune Desert Planet to go to sell Melange. And with Leto's discount, I need 7, so I'm just going to sell 3 and keep 2 for other purposes, so that'll give me 8. Meanwhile, Raban skips over Karthik that they already took, and they're doing Still Suits, so they are going to also get a victory point from the Fremen. That's their second. But it's once again a 4 combat card out, although that was a 0, so might mean that they're more likely to get like a 2. And House Torvald is going to fold space again for a Spacing Guild influence, and that gets them their first victory point. And yeah, look at this. Only the Harkonnen are in the combat space with a single troop, so I gotta try to get in there. But first, let's follow through and get my Sword Master. I sadly have to use my Guild Banker card because that's the only one with the green icon in my hand. I spend 7 Solari because of Duke Leto's ability, and I get a third action that I can use immediately because both the AI are already done. And I have kind of 2 main options here if I want to get into the combat. I can do Reconnaissance, which will let me go to Siege Tabar because, again, I have Fremen Influence that'll get me a troop and a water, and then I can, of course, place another troop from my garrison. Or I can use Diplomacy, go to Hardy Warriors. I'll be spending my only water, but I'll get an extra troop, but I'll also get a Fremen Influence, be close to having their Alliance token for an extra victory point and a free water bonus. I'm not entirely sure, but I hate to waste those icons. I think I'm going to go to Hardy Warriors and spend my water. Actually, you know what? No, I'm not, because, look, nobody went to Haga Basin, which means it's going to have 4 spice in a second instead of 3 for 1 water, and I won't have any if I spend this. So let's go to Siege Tabar and then hope that nobody gets Haga Basin in the turn order before me next turn. So I get a water, I get a troop, and I'll send in another one. I hope I win, or at least tie them. Maybe I should have gone to Hardy Warriors. I am conflicted. Well, let's try it out and see what happens. Now here's the negative of having a ton of agents. You don't have much left in your hand, so I only have 2 to spend. Which means I'll probably either go for an Arrakis Liaison. They can do any of like the Arrakis actions except for harvesting spice, and they also get you 2 to buy stuff. Or I could get some scouts. They give a combat bonus and let you pull up to 2 troops back if you realize you're losing the fight, so you don't waste them. But again, the deck building this one is a little wonky. I don't think I want to add any cards because I want to get to my faction boosting influence ones more quickly. Alright, here we go with combat. I've got 4, they've got 2. Let's hope they draw a weak card. And no, of course, they get like the only 4 that was left in the deck, so they will beat me, darn it. Well, my small consolation is that even if I had gone to Hardy Warriors, I still would have lost to them. Or I guess that we would have tied, so they would not have gotten the men tap, but that's the only difference here. So the Harkonnen will get a second Intrigue card. They need 1 more for a victory point. The Mentat will give them 4 agents next turn, because they're going to get their third in a second. And 2 Solari, not close to getting a bonus there yet. And I also get 2 Solari and my first Intrigue card. And here it's a plot card I can use during my turn. Calculate it higher. For 1 spice, take the Mentat from its designated space in the Landsrad. That's pretty cool, so if I want to get an extra action in a turn, I could do that later. And the Sandworms are busy this round, wow. And as we go to the next turn, things just got a bit more complicated because now everyone's going to have 3 agents a turn. And the new conflict is a Siege of AWAKEN. We both get a victory point if you win, and you get to put your little control token on AWAKEN. Which means you have a little flag here, and every time you or somebody else places an agent there, you'll get 1 Solari, whoever the owner is. Let's see what my cards have for me. I've got my Signet Ring that could get me another influence, and my Bene Gesserit card. Those seem like the likely ones to play. Although I guess if I saved her, I could get +4 combat, or some more money to buy something nice. But House Torvald is first. Remember, they're going 3 times. They're going to Carthag, which will get them a single troop. But hey, they'll finally get to use some of their garrison, go up to 3 there. And let's see, I think I want to use my Signet Ring to get some spice while the spicing is good. And I can spend 1 spice to get that little influence bonus from Duke Leto. So clearly I'll get 4 spice for 1 water. It's a great deal. And in terms of influence, someone's ahead of me on both the Emperor and the Spacing Guild. Well, I like the idea that I could actually beat them to the Emperor potentially, so let's do that one. First of the Harkonnens, 4 actions is AWAKEN. They're going to get a troop, and then remember Raban's bonus is another troop. So they have 2 in the conflict already. Maybe another one I should sit out? Jeez. And meanwhile, House Torvald is going to harvest spice, and they go for the most valuable space with a token. So they're going to get 4 from here, which will get them to 7 and give them a victory point. And that brings them to 2. I'm lagging behind. And by the way, that also finishes out the AI deck, so I'm going to reshuffle it, and everything is back in play. Alright, as for me, I've got this Bene Gesserit card, but I don't really want to spend my spice. I think I'm going to do the Secrets card just to get an Intrigue. This should also let me steal Intrigue from any players with 4 cards or more, but the AI always trades them in for a victory point at 3, so that's never going to help in solo. But what I really care about here is getting my second victory point. Oh, nice. The Intrigue is to gain an influence with the Fremen. Now, there's no need to play that now. If the Harkonnen go up 1, then I can use Duke Leto's ability if I draw the Signet Ring again to match them, and then use it to grab the water bonus and their alliance. Speaking of Harkonnen, they get a Harvest Spice one, so they're going to get 2 Spice. Everybody wanted Spice this turn. This is going to get them to 6, so they are 1 away from a victory point for it. And House Torvald's last action? These crazy jerks. They're rallying troops again. And they literally don't have enough. They're getting 3 more because they didn't have 4 in their reserve. So their garrison is gigantic, but I guess they might win the fight this turn. Alright, as for my last action... Oh, darn. The only option available to me is green. And I have a 3 Solari plus my discount. So rally troops would have actually been the perfect action because I could have just afforded it. So instead, the only thing I can do... by the way, the Mentat is 5 in the veteran difficulty and above. It gets this token to show that instead of it costing 2. But yeah, the only thing I can afford is a Hall of Oratory, which will give me a troop for my garrison, not bad, and an extra point to spend this turn, that's okay. So sure, there we go. And now it's a double whammy of consecutive Harkonnen actions. They do still suits, so they are almost to the alliance space for the Fremen. And then, oh, you're kidding me, they got Hardy Warriors and immediately get this. So that's +1 water for them, 1 away from a victory, and they're going to put 2 more troops into the combat. And this again is worth 1 victory point as long as they hold it. Well, that was a bit of a nightmare. Harkonnen is definitely jumping to the front. My +1 combat bonus is worthless because I didn't have any troops in the conflict, so I just have 2 plus the bonus from my Hall of Oratory action, so I have 3 to spend. And again, the question is, do I get anything? But Shifting Allegiance is actually, I think, is pretty decent, so I will grab that one. And it's replaced with an Imperial Spy, a decent one. And let's check out the combat. I actually would prefer blue to come from behind here because red's already ahead. Red gets +1, so they're up to 9. And blue gets +3, so they're also at 9. Oh, that's perfect. Because since they tie, they just both get 4 Solari, and neither of them gets the victory point. And all their troops go away. And we were all a little spice hungry this round, so no makers giving bonuses. Alright, let's see what our new conflict is over. Terrible Purpose. Okay, well, you can trash a card and get a victory point. Again, wouldn't be bad to win that. And I'm first this turn, and let's see. I got my Shifting Alliances and my Guild Bankers. Interesting. And let's see, I have 5 spice. If I get 1 more, I can do the Highliner action, gain 5 troops, and I can send a bunch of them to combat, and 2 water, setting me up for more spice gain later. Yeah, I kind of like the sound of that, so let's start out with this cruddy card to get just 1 spice. Or actually, if I'm about to get more water, let's do this one and get 2. And to come over to the Harkonnen for a second, not only do they have 3 victory points, but 1 more Intrigue card will get them 1 more water will get them 1 more Spice will get them 1 more Solari will get them 1, and they now have an alliance, which means Raban's Signet Ring ability gives him 2 troops instead of 1, so they are in a nasty, nasty position. But they keep it pretty basic. For their first card, they're just getting a single troop in the conflict, that's fine. Meanwhile, Torvald is also getting a troop, but they'll also pull in 2 from their garrison, and their Signet Ring is to give them 1 spice, which is not even close to a victory point yet. So they're up to 3, so yeah, I'll probably need that Highliner to actually equal them. So yep, let's try it out. For my second action, the Guild Bankers are going to get me over here. And that's my first influence with them, so almost to a victory point. And I have to spend almost all of my spice, but I do get 2 water to hopefully get more. And I'm getting 5 troops. And gosh, I think I'll put them all in. Question is, do I put in an extra one? Because House Torvald, if they do another action, will certainly get it. Although they're not going to play a Harvest Spice card, and I don't think these are even in there. So unless they get one of the Fremen cards, I don't think they'll go in. So I'm going to stop with 5. Alright, the Harkonnens are going to fold space and start working on the Spacing Guild. Meanwhile, House Torvald is going to do some secrets, and I guess they're diversifying their influence. Let's see. For my last one, I'm honestly not sure. I kind of like to keep both of those to spend 4 when I buy a card, but the dagger might be the single point I need to win the combat. But looking ahead to future combats, I do still have the money to buy some troops, so I think I'll rally 4 troops and set myself up for later. So there we go, I'm starting to equal the garrison in the blue wave. Alright, final card for the Harkonnens. They're going to conspire, gain an Emperor influence and 2 troops. That is their first Emperor influence. But that's just in the garrison, so not affecting this combat yet. I wish they were in there. And finally, House Torvald did not add more troops, good for me. But they have equaled my Bene Gesserit influence to gain a victory point. So they're both at 3 and I'm at 2. And I have 4. I'm going to get this Gun Thopter. If I play it as an agent, I can make them each lose a troop from their garrison, which would actually help right now while they have them. Or very nice, if they're in my hand when I reveal, I'll get +3 combat and deploy a troop to the conflict. That'd be awesome. And speaking of the conflict, this one's pretty important. Let's see how it turns out. We'll do the Harkonnens first. They got a single point, bringing them to 3. Oh, and I have 10, by the way. And then, give me a break, man. Of course, blue gets the single card with a 6. I guess there's also a 5 in there. But yeah, 2 cards in the entire deck that could have beaten me, and they got it. That's great. All right, so they get 12 points, and they're getting the victory point. They, I don't think, trash a card ever, and I get a water and a spice. And we get some extra spice. I'm probably going to hop over there if I can with my water next turn. And let's see what the new conflict card has. Another siege, this time of Carthage, and it would get us a victory point as well. And they're always the same 4 level 3 conflict cards at the bottom of the deck, though in a random order, and they'll tend to give you 2 victory points per win, so it's sometimes good to kind of hang on to your garrison until then. Alright, Harkonnens are going to be first, and they're still poised to get victory points everywhere. As for me, wow, this is going to be an influence-heavy turn. I got my Bene Gesserit, my Diplomacy, and my Signet Ring. Let's see what we can do with that. But the Harkonnens are first, and they're getting Wealth, so that gets them their 4th victory point. And Blue's getting Hall of Oratory just for a single troop to their garrison. And I think I'm going to harvest at the Great Flat. I can use my Signet Ring to do it. I'll spend 2 of my water. I've got 1 more, but I'll get up to 6 spice total. Then I'll spend 1 to use Duke Leeto's ability. So I could go up in influence and try to overtake them, but I don't care that much about that. But for the Emperor or the Spacing Guild, I can get a victory point. And I think I'm about to do an Emperor action, so let's do the Spacing Guild, and that'll be my 3rd. Meanwhile, the Harkonnens are going to go to Carthage. That'll get them 1 troop plus the 2 from their garrison. And House Torvald's going to harvest spice, getting them 2, and they will also bring in 2 troops since they can. I'll go ahead and conspire with my Diplomacy. So they'll get me to my 4th victory point, tied again. Does cost me all but 1 of my spice, though. But I get 5 Solari, 2 troops from my garrison, and an Intrigue card. So I guess I'll sit out the battle this turn, but I should be in a decent position for the level 3 ones. And let's see, the card you play this turn, has any icon. That's pretty cool for like a cruddy card on a future turn. Alright, Harkonnens' last one will be Selective Breeding. They just got their 5th victory point. Torvald wanted to conspire. Glad I did that first. So instead, they'll go to Still Suits. I don't mind that too much since they're so far back. Oh, and it clears out their garrison more. That's okay. And for my last action, I'm going to do Bene Gesserit Secrets. That's getting me close to the Alliance victory point and a free Intrigue card, and I get an Intrigue card, so I'll have a bunch of those. And in this case, I can either have 2 combat or get 10 spice to help with the tiebreaker. Well, that's kind of silly, but 2 combat. You can add that after you see what the AI draws, so really nice cards there. And I once again only have 2 to spend. So I could go for the Spice Hunter. That would help me get Fremen Influence, although I don't care about that as much. Or the Imperial Spy. Yeah, I'll get him, because more Imperial Influence would not hurt. And when I play him, I can trash him to get an Intrigue card. I mean, maybe. And they're duking it out again. I guess I'd kind of like blue to win since red's ahead. So red gets plus nothing, and blue gets plus nothing. Wish that could have been any of the fights I had with them. So yeah, blue will win the victory point. And they get their token on Carthage for free Solari if people go there in the future. And then, oh lord, an Intrigue and a Spice. That's not good. Because that's their 3rd Intrigue for a victory point, and their 7th Spice for a victory point. So they just skyrocketed to 7. Yikes. Alright, so here we go. The last 4 rounds of the game. Let's see what our first level 3 conflict is. 2 victory points and a fight over Arakeen. And Torvald's going to be first, and they're going for Still Suits. So that'll get them to 6 victory points. And they have 2 troops in there now. Alright, I got my Signet Ring. I got Shifting Allegiances. I don't have enough spice for all of this stuff. Man, I have a really limited number of actions I can take this turn. I think I have a good little trick. I'm going to use Shifting Alliances to go in here. That'll get me 3 spice, which will get me to 4, and then I'm going to spend 2 to use this ability. And that lets me decrease 1 influence. I'll do Bene Gesserit to get 2 more. And then if I use my Intrigue card and Know Their Ways, I'll get another one. I'll actually steal that Alliance token from the Harkonnen, and I'll get my water back for getting the spice. So that brings me within 1 of everybody. It's a little better. And I'll, of course, put 2 troops in to try to win this. Speaking of the Harkonnen, they're going to rally troops but not place any yet. As Torvald's going to get an extra troop in their rally point. Now, I wanted to rally troops, but now I can't. There's not really much great to do with this dagger. Although, wait, I could use it with Dispatch and Envoy. That would be good. Or you know what? I'd rather have combat than points at this point. So what if I use Convincing Argument, but make it go from 0 icons to every icon? But actually, I'm tied with a lot of people. If I wait and one of them jumps ahead of me, I can use this to get the Alliance for myself. So let me do the Signet Ring first. Oh, wait, no, I'm ahead of everybody. I can't use the Signet Ring yet. Alright, maybe I will use the dagger after all, just to delay. I'll spend 4 Solari with my discount to get the Mentat, and then take another turn later. And here we go, my opportunity appears to use my Duke Leto ability because they just went past me, the Harkonnens, in the Bene Gesserit track. Meanwhile, Blue just went up the Emperor track and has taken the lead. They're at 7. Alright, so now I can do my Signet Ring and then move up the Bene Gesserit one, and then use my other card with the bonus to get their alliance, yes. But where do I want to go? I guess one of these so I can put some more troops down. Could just get one more spice, or I could get a troop and draw a card. Or a troop and a water, that looks pretty good. Yeah, let's do that one. So I'm going to get a troop and I'll put 2 more in. And then I'll spend 1 spice to use my Signet ability, which is going to get me within striking distance of that alliance and another intrigue card. What are the Harkonnen going to say about that? Oh, man. Oh, that's right, I stole the alliance. So Raban's ability will only give him 1 troop, so he'll get 2. Oof, but then he can add 2 more, so now I'm barely ahead of him, and of course they'll probably get some huge bonus. Well, I got 1 action left. Well, I've still got my +2 combat, so there's a decent chance I can pull into the lead with that. So let's stick to the plan, use Dispatch and Envoy to do the Secrets action. I'm going to get an Intrigue card, go up here, get my 6th victory point, and get a 2nd Intrigue card for the bonus. Ooh, I don't have enough spice to use this, but that's amazing. And enemy agents don't block your next agent at board spaces this turn. Okay, that's kind of cool. And then I have 2 points left and certainly not going to buy anything. I mean, I won't even go through my deck in time anyway, so who cares? Alright, big combat here. If I win, I'll be at 8 points and ahead of everybody. If I lose, they'll probably win the game in a second. Harkonnen's getting no bonus. And they were the bigger ones, so that's great. They only have 8. And Blue gets us +1. Okay, so finally that went in my favor. So I definitely don't need to use my bonus card. I'm already ahead of both of them. So sweet, I take control of AWAKEN. So I jump up to 8 victory points in the lead. I don't see anything in the rules for how they choose which bonuses they want. But I figure they pick an Intrigue card since that's 1/3 of a victory point. And then the Solari will get them a victory point, so I guess they'll take that. And with that, they're right behind with 7. Alright, here we go, into the last turn. We've got 2 victory points again. So if I can win this, I'll pretty much clinch the victory. So if I can just get a decent number of troops in there and then have 2 spice to use Private Army, I can't see how I wouldn't beat them. And I'll be first. Let's just go as strong as we can for that. So I've got Diplomacy and Bene Gesserit. Don't necessarily need either of those. And I do have just 2 actions that'll actually get me on the board with troops. Oh no, I guess I can use Diplomacy as a Fremen action to get more. There we go. So yeah, let's come out the gate right away with that. Let's take Hardy Warriors before they can. That'll make my Fremen influence unbeatable. And I'll get to add 2 troops and then pull 2 more in. So already a nice position. The Harkonnens are going to Carthage. They're going to get a troop and give Blue a Solari. And that'll get them to 3 with their garrison. And of course, Blue takes rally troops, which was definitely going to be my next one. So their garrison is huge, but they're not going to have time to bring them all out. Alright, next I'll jump over here with all my water. They'll get me a bunch of spice. Now I can definitely pay for my private army. And I can also put out my last garrison troop. Okay, and Harkonnens want to harvest spice, which is totally fine. It's not going to be enough for them to gain a victory point, and they don't have any garrison troops to put into play. Torvald is going Bene Gesserit, but they're not close to challenging my alliance. Let's see, I'm not sure what to do with my last action. Well, I might as well use a calculated hire and get the Mentat for just a spice cost. And that gives me 2 actions left, so I can go after everybody. And then sure, just because it's fun, I'll go and use my Bene Gesserit one for my second to last action. And we haven't actually done this action, so let's spend 2 spice. The selected breeding part shouldn't matter which card I call, but I'll get to draw 2 more. Oh, and there we go. I was hoping for this. I get the Gun Thopter, so I can have +3 attack, and I have more action options. Nice. Anyway, I guess just to show it, I'll throw away this card that doesn't have any icons on it. Okay, hopefully last Harkonnen action. They're going to get an extra troop they'll never deploy. Nice. Last Thorvald action. Oh, beautiful. They're going to gain 2 troops, but they'll never get to bring them out of their garrison. Man, all game long, these guys have not had enough aggression. Look at this. And honestly, my last action doesn't really matter, so let's just have fun and say that I go on the High Council, because I'm about to take over the galaxy. I have just enough Solari with my discount. And I just put my little token here, and now I'll get +2 for buying stuff every turn. Not that it matters. Alright, so where are we combat-wise? Harkonnen's at 6, I'm at 10. But then with this, I have 3 more, so I'm at 13. And their bonus is 2, so they're at, 8? And then here we go, Private Army and Tiebreaker. I'll get 7 more and just go to 20 for fun. because those 2 victory points will push me to 10, triggering the end of the game, and boom, I made it. So there we go, the way history should have gone. Duke Leto never dies. Oscar Isaac gets to live out his space life the best way he can. Hope you enjoyed the playthrough. That was Dune Imperium, the solo mode. And if you want to hear my review on this one, some of the flaws I see in it, but also some of the things I enjoy, click the link that just popped up. Good gaming, and I'll see you at the next stop.